Hey, this is Jack with ReciPal, and today we're going to talk about the Canadian front of package labeling requirements. These aren't actually new requirements, they were instituted back in 2022. However, the deadline to implement these is creeping up. By January 1st, 2026, the food industry has to abide by these new front of label packaging rules. So the rule's pretty simple. If your product is high in saturated fat, sugar, or sodium, then the front of your packaging has to carry a symbol created by Health Canada to let consumers know this. Foods that have high levels of saturated fat, sugar, or sodium can put you at a risk for heart disease, obesity, stroke, diabetes, and the idea behind this is that if you put that on the front of the package, it makes it easier for consumers to make informed health choices about what they're going to eat. As a food business trying to stay compliant with these regulations, the first thing you need to do is figure out if your product is high in any of the specified categories. Health Canada defines being high in saturated fat, sugar, or sodium when the product has 15% or more of the applicable daily value. So there are a couple exceptions here that are important to note. For small servings, which Health Canada defines as anything less than or equal to 30 grams or 30 milliliters, you have to show the front of package symbol when the saturated fat, sugar, or sodium is greater than or equal to 10% of the applicable daily value. There's also an exception for main dishes. For products that are intended for children and adults, the definition of a main dish is anything that has a serving size of 200 grams or greater. And there's also additional specifications about food from different categories that needs to be in combination to make it a main dish. So if you have a main dish, then the sugar, saturated fat, and sodium needs to be declared on the front of packaging as high if it's greater than or equal to 30% of the applicable daily value. So if your product is high in any of these categories, you'll need to display that symbol on the front of your packaging. The size of the symbol will vary based on the size of your packaging, and Health Canada has specific guidelines helping you choose the right size, but generally speaking, the idea is always to make it clear and legible. The placement of the symbol will also vary. In general, it'll always be in the top half of your product on the principal display panel, and if your product is wider than it is tall, it'll appear on the right side of your product. If you were trying to figure out how to be compliant on your own, you'd need to do the nutrient analysis, compare it to the applicable daily values depending on the weight and type of food that you're producing, and from there you'd actually have to email Health Canada to get a file of the symbols. And there's a ton of symbols. There's vertical, horizontal, bilingual, a symbol for every different combination of saturated fat, sodium, or sugar. And so it's kind of a big task to figure this out on your own. But where ReciPal comes in is we're going to analyze your recipe through our nutrition analysis and automatically give you the appropriate symbol to immediately download. So no emailing Health Canada, no sorting through a gigantic file trying to find the right one. Use the nutrition analysis tool to understand if you're high in any of these categories, and then immediately get the symbol and be able to place it on your product. And here's another thing ReciPal can help you with. Obviously, having a symbol on the front of your package showing that there's potential health risks and consumers need to be wary is not good marketing. So what you can do within ReciPal is actually do some research and development on your recipe to figure out how you could make some changes to fall below the thresholds where you need to make these front of package declarations. So that could be trying different proportions of ingredients, substitute ingredients, different formulations of your recipe that make it healthier and help you avoid having to put this negative symbol on your products altogether. If you need to figure out Canada's front of package labeling, get started for free at ReciPal.com.